The trade news just does not stop as the Chicago Bulls and the NBA get closer and closer to the trade deadline. We keep hearing more and more teams that could be interested in the Chicago Bulls pieces. On today's episode, we're going to talk about the Lakers reportedly having an interest in Lonzo Ball. We're going to get into all that and more, but you know what we got to do first? Got to play that intro. Catch you guys on the other side of this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, hosted by Haize, your number one spot for all things Chicago Bulls.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. And yeah, we got news. Well, according to The Athletic, the Lakers are pursuing a Lonzo Ball trade leading into the 2025 NBA trade deadline. The Lakers are willing to give up the Bulls' reported asking price of 2 second-round picks to land the player that they actually had in their building previously. Now, when you look at this for the Los Angeles Lakers, we have heard a lot of kind of conflicting things in regards to the Lakers, that they're looking for a star-level move, they're looking for more complementary moves. Lonzo Ball would kind of be the in-between of that, right? Because Lonzo Ball has the upside of having a star-level impact on teams, especially with his skill set of being a two-way player, shooting the basketball, and his overall leadership as far as running an offense as well. Now, the Lakers also reportedly at one point in time did seek a perimeter defender to add to what they have going on here as well. And Lonzo Ball really would do that. Regardless of Lonzo's shooting that's been up and down so far this season, in his first season back, one thing that nobody can really take away from Lonzo is that the defense is still there, the activity is still there, the court vision is still there, and everything else. The shooting has been hit or miss, but it's been more miss than hit recently. And I know a lot of Bulls fans want to see the Chicago Bulls hold on to Lonzo Ball. Hell, I would love to see Lonzo Ball stay here as well. I'm kind of indifferent on if they move him or not, but I understand the love that Lonzo Ball has in this Bulls community. But if the Bulls know that they do not plan on retaining Lonzo Ball, then they might as well get something back for him. And 2 second-round picks, considering his injury history, is an interest there. When you look at it as well with Jared Vanderbilt making his return, they just traded for Dorian Finney-Smith. You add Lonzo Ball to that, you have a nice perimeter defensive rotation to go along with Anthony Davis as well and his defensive versatility. I don't think that this move makes the Lakers this huge threat out in the West. I just don't think that move's out there for the Lakers. But if the Bulls do covet those 2 second-round picks, it would make some sense. Now, what would be coming back? You look at Lonzo Ball's contract, $20 million. The Los Angeles Lakers also, while not a second tax apron team, they are above the first tax apron, so they can take back more salary than they send out. And so because of that, technically, if the Lakers only want to give up one player and second-round picks, Rui Hachimura can make that trade work. He has a $17 million contract. The Lakers have the ability to absorb. He's in that 3% in which the Lakers can acquire more salary than they send out. And the Bulls also, with West being right up against the luxury tax, they can look to appreciate a lesser salary. Also, Rui Hachimura does have an additional year on his contract after this year. If it's not Hachimura, I don't see how else this deal gets done. The only contract that they have that would match 1-for-1 with Lonzo Ball's as far as within the percentage difference is Dorian Finney-Smith. They just acquired Dorian Finney-Smith, so I don't see that happening. Gabe Vincent doesn't get you there. Even if you were going to do Gabe Vincent and Max Christie, which will get you there, the Bulls don't have an extra roster spot to absorb an extra player back. Maybe you're looking at a Torrey Craig. Maybe they want some veteran depth there with his league minimum contract. So maybe you're looking at that when it comes down to it. But either way, if the Lakers want to get this deal done, they can get it done. The question is that would the Bulls bite at the assets that the Lakers have that are willing to offer? Keep in mind, 2 second-round picks is a reported asking price. The Lakers have 2 second-round picks in this draft. In this draft, they have 2 second-round picks. So if the Bulls, who already have a 2025 second-round pick from the Sacramento Kings, you add 2 second-round picks in this 2025 draft, we've already seen AK combined second-round picks to move up So maybe that's the kind of flexibility that AK could be looking at in this type of deal as well. So maybe that's the equation that they're looking at. But I think just looking at the contracts and everything, Hachimura, 2 second-round picks, that's what gets you the closest. That's what gets you the closest. Moino, you think we're going to fire sell? I don't think they're going to fire sell, but I said it before that if the Bulls do make moves, Torrey Craig, Lonzo Ball probably are the most likely. With maybe Nikola Vucevic kind of a ring down from that. So I can see this happening. I can see that happening. We're not trading Lonzo. We're definitely not trading Lonzo. You have no room to say that. Like, I'm sorry. The Bulls, if Lonzo is not part of their long-term future, keep in mind, as we talked about in an earlier episode, the Bulls are already going to have difficulty keeping Ayo and Kobe if they want to. Lonzo Ball, even though he's been a Chicago Bull, his injury history and the fact that the Bulls may need that roster spot for something other than guard. So we can't really say anything of what the Bulls wouldn't do. And if they have their asking price met, which is reportedly 2 second-round picks, I don't think that it really changed that in that case, right? So we'll see. Dan Bull said the asking price so low. I don't really think you can ask for more for Lonzo, to be 100% honest with you, JK. And that's why I think if you can get 2 second-round picks in this draft, 2025, I think that's kind of, listen, I get it. Lonzo was making a great impact, but you got to look at the injury history and the fact that he is an expiring contract. If Lonzo had an additional year left on his contract where he can prove for another year that he's going to be able to stay healthy, I do think that would really change what the value that Lonzo's looked at. But without that additional year, then teams have to make their decision based off this small sample size, which, keep in mind, Lonzo almost had another season-ending injury this season with the wrist. If it would have gone another grade up on that sprain, he would have needed surgery. It would have been season-ending. So teams are going to look at that as well. So, we'll see what happens with that. We need to keep both Zoe and Zach. No, you don't. I'm sorry. No, you don't. I get it, and I get the attachment, but let's be clear here. You don't, because the Bulls aren't winning. And I've said this before. Some of you Bulls fans have conversations about the Bulls like we're winning something, right? The Bulls are a bottom of the league team, bottom of the league. And yes, Lonzo's having a really good season, all things considering. Zach's having a really good season, all things considering. Vooch is having a really good season. Well, Vooch and Zach are having good seasons regardless. But for all that's worth, we're at the bottom of the Eastern Conference. Don't let the play-in confuse you and make you think we're higher than where we are. We're not. Bulls fans need to understand that due to Lonzo Ball's injuries in the past, we're not going to get much for him other than what you mentioned, but I'm still indifferent about trading him. I agree. 100% agree with you on that one. Do it for a signed Magic Johnson jersey. That is hilarious. That's funny. Would you take an EJ signed jersey? You may not know who that is. I'd rather see Kobe traded instead of Lonzo. Yeah, and that's just, I'm sorry, objectively, that's silly. If you're going into a place where you're trying to go younger, you don't keep an older piece with it. Even if you take away Lonzo's knee injury, let's be clear here. Lonzo has had a number of injuries that have shortened his seasons for his whole entire career. For his whole entire career. So come on. Y'all, I can tell some of y'all don't know how to make business decisions, right? You just don't. Like, I get it. You don't want to see your team lose. I don't want to see the Bulls lose. But I think sometimes people need to realize we're losing. Like, we're on pace to win 34 games. We're a losing team. Nobody should be untouchable at that point. And if you're picking a direction to go younger, you go younger. But you don't, as a losing team, say, oh, well, we don't want to keep these older players. Where are you going? The Bulls are a losing team. Like, let's be clear here. If this was before the play-in was created, the 7th and 8th seed are middle of the pack. The Bulls are the 10th seed. 4 or 5 years ago, they would be looked at as one of the bottom feeders in the East. The play-in has boosted the things, and unfortunately, the Bulls have bought into the hype of the play-in. The Bulls are a bottom-tier team in the NBA. They're bottom tier. Jared, that's not what I said either. LaVine isn't a shit player either. He's just not a number one option. I love Zoe, but we need the assets, and I'd love to see Zoe in the playoffs with LeBron. I mean, listen, I would love that if this Bulls team was in a much better place to where we're talking about keeping these guys, but we're not. We're just not. It's not about winning now based off our record. We're going to keep that pick, move off Vooch, Pat Will, Torrey Craig, and build around Zach again. You don't have enough leeway to runway to build around Zach again. Like, you built around Zach before. See how that failed. And you built around him with players that that are probably better than what you're going to get in the draft. And it's going to take years for those players to develop. Zach turns 30 this year. Not to say that that's super old in the NBA, but let's be clear here. You don't typically all of a sudden build contending teams around players that haven't been on one in 30 years. You just don't do that. True, I'm down on AK. If they can take Carter and Duarte as part of the deal, I wouldn't mind. The difficulty with that is Carter and Duarte have so because of the salary restrictions, the only thing you're looking at adding in a deal like that is literally vet minimum contracts. And unfortunately, Javon Carter makes considerably more than that. He makes $6.5 million. Chris Duarte is right up there too, I think, with $5 or $6 million. So veteran minimum contracts are a lot easier to move. So I think you have to look at that part of it as well. Haize, I'm not going to lie. Lonzo Ball getting traded would be the best, especially when you don't even know if he wants to come back. So I don't get the feeling that Lonzo would want to leave. I think that Lonzo wants to go someplace that's going to embrace him for him. I don't get the feeling. Now, I could be wrong. It's not like I talk to Lonzo every day to where I know, but I don't get that feeling that Lonzo is one of those players is like, yeah, get me out of Chicago. I think he realizes like, hey, this is actually a good place where I can do things. I got players around me that kind of make sense. We can get out in transition. I really get to still run the offense, even if I come off the bench. But I get what you're coming at with that one. An autographed EJ jersey would be a dress I'll pass. That's hilarious. I'm a Laker fan all my life. I'll take Zoe back tonight. And I think what the place of the Lakers is, this actually makes some sense for the Lakers because of the state that the team is in right now, right? But we got to see. I mean, just because it makes sense doesn't mean that it will happen. And that's something you always got to think about and talk about in these scenarios. Just because it makes sense doesn't mean that it will happen. And that's just the nature of the NBA, unfortunately, right? You would love to be able to say that every deal that makes sense means that it's going to happen, but unfortunately, it just does not, right? So you got to kind of read the tea leaves where you can, right? If we get some picks for Vooch, it means getting Daniel Gafford back. Picks for Zach, for Lonzo, or Lonzo, something for P. Will. And listen, I'll tell you what right now. I don't think the Bulls are moving P. Will. And if you do, I don't think you're getting anything back but a low-end second-round pick. But here's what I will say. To your point, Vern, right? And don't let me try to make your point for you. Please tell me to shut the hell up. But if you're looking at the Bulls and they recoup the picks that they gave up to build this team together. Keep in mind, what was it? 2 second-round picks for Vooch, or 3 first-round picks for Vooch, a first-round pick for DeMar DeRozan. If you're able to move off of Nikola Vucevic and get at least 1 first-round pick back, you get 2 second-round picks for Lonzo Ball, another one for maybe Torrey Craig, and then reportedly they want at least 2 first-round picks, 1 protector for Zach LaVine. If you're able to walk away from this with 3 first-round picks and 2 second-round picks, depending on still the talent that you get back, because you still want some young talent, especially in the case of Zach LaVine, you don't win the trade, and you're not going to win the trade. I think that a lot of fans are still trying to find a way for the Bulls to win the trade. They're not winning the trade. The only way that the Bulls can win these trades is if the players that they choose with those picks they get end up blossoming into really good players or at least 1 star out the bunch. But if you're looking at initially, the day of the trade goes down, you're like, yeah, the Bulls won this. That's very unlikely to happen. It's not going to happen in the case like this. So you're doing it for the future assets. You're doing it for what the flexibility it gives you in the future. And that's what the Bulls are looking at in the case like this. So, we'll see what happens, man, overall, what happens. But, overall, I'll say this. I still, with even all this recent news, don't expect the Chicago Bulls to do anything. I just don't. But, I mean, where there's smoke, sometimes there's fire. And we'll see if that fire leads to activity at the trade deadline for the Chicago Bulls. But I'm not going to try to sit here and sell y'all a dream. Still, the most likely thing is ain't shit happening. I'm just going to be 100% honest with y'all. But if something does happen, you already know. Hit that subscribe button. We're going to be the #1 place the first time. When something drops, we drop. You're not going to have to wait for it. And that's what Chicago Bulls Central does. We give y'all the news up to the breaking minute. So I thank you guys for tuning in to another episode. Make sure you guys are following the show at Bulls Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. BullsCentralPod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so 773-270-2799. We're the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that's thanks to you lovely and beautiful people. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.